Hey y'all, it's Hope here at Crafty Hope and welcome. In this video, I am working on days 11, 12, and 13 of the 100 Day Project and my hashtag Not Precious project, in which I try to use items I've made super precious for my stash and yeah, just use them. Instead of collecting them and letting them build up and reminding myself that they're not actually precious. So, this is part 5, in which I am altering it's a kid's board book. So just a little thick, chunky book that I've added some papers that felt really precious to it. And then I'm going through, I've added the cover, the first and second spreads, and I believe this is the third or the middle spread of this. Now I found that in the middle of these, like in the crease, in that crevice, they were cracking and exposing the board book underneath. So on this, I had added some rust-dyed music paper. So I put down a little bit of some golden fluid acrylic in quinacridone nickel azo gold, which to me looks a lot like rust, and covered up the white that was exposed, and then used a little bit of rust-dyed coffee filter to also cover that up and have like an actual paper surface there that I had added. From there, I'm adding, this is a solution of, it's some black tea in a jar along with some rusty things. I keep it in my fridge and it makes this really neat dye. So I'm putting that just down the middle of both of these pages, trying to get them to inky dye at the middle. And it does an okay job, but for some reason it's just, yeah, it's not staining it as much as I would like, not putting as much color there as I would like, even though I keep adding it. And part of that is, as soon as I added the papers to this board book, the board book never will close again the way that it initially did, and I have come to accept that. So I will be adding things in this that this page in particular does not close. Yeah, it is good and chunky in the center. So to re-accentuate, for some reason I really wanted that inky darkness in the middle. So I grabbed a watercolor palette and some Payne's Gray watercolor that I'm right where I had put that dark ink that didn't work. I'm putting that watercolor instead. So I love Payne's Gray and rust together. So that was just kind of my thinking there. Now those are some skeleton leaves that I stitched together on the sewing machine to make like a fabric basically of skeleton leaves. I just ran it, stacked them and ran it through my sewing machine. I wasn't sure if it would work, but those are kind of precious to me and I never use them. So I thought, nah, we'll see what happens. I am continuing to work on the background here, and I've got some instant coffee crystals that I'm adding to this little yogurt cup along with some water to make one of my other favorite inky paints. And it's just, y'all, it's coffee. I've made some thick coffee that I'm going to paint on this spread. It's one of my favorite things that I don't know why. I love how it works out. It's something many other artists use, but yeah. So it's going to take away from the rust dye that's actually there along with the watercolor, because of course I'm adding a water-based substance on top of watercolor, so some of that's going to move around, but none of that's really going to matter because I will be adding that strip of skeleton leaves. So I painted that on there and you can see splattering it just a little bit, and then I will dry it again, I think, picking up some that has gone into that crease. Like I said, this is just kind of getting pictures of this, and then was precariously balanced. I was really going for all my favorite things. So I've got rust, I've got Payne's Gray, I've got that rusty paint, I've got coffee dye, and now I am using the Liquitex, what is it? It's an acrylic ink in bright gold. I love this ink. It is so yummy. Normally I would just splatter it, but since I had splattered the coffee, I decided to do a little bit of mark making using a really tiny brush and that ink, and I'm making some marks. And again, I don't know that this really matters because it's going to go behind those skeleton leaves. So at this I will say this spread and the last spread of this journal, I really, really struggled with. The first two pages and the cover came together super quick, but there was something like I was trying to force them somehow, and so I did struggle through this. But what I'm liking about my 100-day project is I told myself going in that I didn't have to make a single thing every day or alter 100 things or use 100 precious items. Really, all I wanted to do was work with something that was precious each day. And so for me, this board book, just the making of it, like everything I added, I mean, these skeleton leaves felt precious. Everything I've added in some of the previous pages, some of the dyed papers, the pictures, the molded resin piece I put on the cover, all of those things felt precious. And so just by working in this book, I'm working with those items. So, and for me, the 100-day project is more about creating every day than about what your end result is, because there's something in that creating every single day that is inspiring. It pushes your limits. I did use matte gel medium to put down my skeleton leaf fabric, and I'm using, that is a silicone, like, what do you call it? Like spatula from the Dollar Tree, or dollar store, I think, even, that I put down. I'm trying not to put down too much of that matte gel, but I want to make sure that these skeleton leaves are secure. So I want to put too much to clump it up and take away from the shape of the skeleton leaves. So I'll put that down, and that might be where I left it for day 11. So the first day I worked on this spread, I'm not positive. I can't remember how I broke that up. In future projects, I will try to come in and tell you, like, okay, now this is day 12, but I don't remember with this one. I wanted to accentuate the skeleton leaves, and for some reason I thought some metallic watercolor was going to be the way to go, so I'm using this palette. It's from, I think, Art Philosophy from Prima, and painting around, trying to pick up some of the texture of those skeleton leaves with that watercolor paint. This seems like, I don't know, I'm watching this going, gosh, it feels like I'm moving slow, but I know I have this video sped up 2 times speed, so it just feels that way. I was being so meticulous. I sprayed a little bit of water on top of that, trying to get the paint to kind of move around within the like the cells of the skeleton leaves. And then drying that. Now I thought a bit on this and decided to come in, because I've got that fabric off on the side of the previous spread. I'm going to use a little bulb pin and a couple of, I think it's 3 little bells. They're tiny. I think I got them actually in the jewelry section of, I don't even remember where. But it's a jewelry accent charm that's supposed to be little bells that I put on that clip and hung it right there. I will add something else to that later, like the next day or whatever. All right, this might be the next day. I'm wearing a different sweater there. And I wanted to add a little bit of, I don't know, something, because I had the leaves in the background. I thought maybe some of these embroidered leaves would be really neat. I think they end up getting lost, but it's this some weird linen thing I'm sure I picked up for $1 at an estate sale, and I'm cutting it down, trying to cut the leaf off. I also wanted to keep some of that lace. I really liked the lace on that, and y'all, I'm going to futz with this forever, so I do apologize how long I tried to cut out as much of some of the futzing I did with this as I could. But it just, it just happens. So I'm cutting that little bit of lace off, and I've got that piece there with the leaf on it. And I'm going to try to find, because I wanted the lace to stick out of the book somehow. So I'm looking at it on the side from the top. I mentioned this in another one. I don't tend to stick anything that's going to stick out of my journal will be the top or the side, not usually the bottom, because to me, if you stand it up or put it in the bookshelf the way you typically would, the bottom's going to scrape. Now, if you stack it on its side, I guess that's okay, but it's still going to touch something either from the top or I don't know. It's a persnickety thing, and I think it was my friend Dina. I think you responded and said you don't like things to stick out the bottom either, so I'm glad I have some solidarity in that. I thought it was just a me thing, like just me being obstinate. So you see, I cut that down so that I just had the single leaf there without like the flourishes and everything. And I'm taking that piece of lace and fabric that I had like pulled off and decided to give it a bit of grunge. So I'm using some of my homemade alcohol ink spray. I think I'll link to that. It's a super simple way to do it. And then I've got one of the distress oxides. Oh, y'all, I think maybe vintage photo, maybe what it is. I'll put it below because I can see it's one of the smaller containers, so I'll know what to look for. But it's one of the brown distress oxide sprays. So I sprayed both of those things there. I think I'm going to go grab some Lindy's, probably. Maybe. It seems like I tried to add something sparkly, but I don't know. Maybe I didn't. Oh no, that's the transparent raw umber. Y'all, I'm not positive. I always get it wrong. um, it's a Liquitex ink that I put on there, and then I dried all of it. I don't know if my battery died or what. But then I decided to grab a couple more things out of a bin in my craft room that is labeled, no, in my office, that's labeled scrapbook aisle. And so I've got these little Tim Holtz metal pieces that are fun accents. Y'all, I'm going to play with them for a while. I don't ever add them. They just did not feel right, or maybe they felt, I don't know, they just didn't feel right here. But I've also got some of these like sticker molded flowers. And y'all, I'm thinking I got those. I don't know. But they're just little resin stickers. And so I'm playing with all of that. You can see I've also got the Tim Holtz version of those resin stickers too, that I'm just like, I want to do something here. So I decided to go ahead and glue down that bit of dyed fabric and then the leafy fabric using some Fabri-Tac. I think I'm going to do. I told y'all I've futzed with this forever and ever. So, all right, I'm finally going to stick a little bit of Fabri-Tac down, stick the lace over the top of it, and then more Fabri-Tac and that other bit of that linen that's got the embroidery on it. So, and I think that did a great job there laying it on, I don't know. I got something coming out the top of the book, so that texture coming out the top of the book. But then I also got where you can see that lace and that embroidery a little bit more because it's layered on top of all that darkness. So I've grabbed one of those stickers, the darker teal ones. I'm trying to get as much of that actual, because it's like a foam dot, one of the sticky back dots that's on there. And I didn't want it to be so poofy or have that come off. So I'm trying my best to scrape as much as I can of that off. So I'm actually using my E6000 here to glue the resin to the book and not the sticker to the book, or the foamy sticker to the book. Does that make sense? I really like the surfaces to have contact with the real surfaces and not to have any kind of barrier between. If possible. So there is a crystal bead that I picked up in a thrift haul just recently, not long before I filmed this. And so before it could become precious, I was like, okay, I'm going to use this. So I'm going to put it on that bulb pen over there. And I think, yeah, I can't remember if I tried to stick it between some of those bells so that it wasn't like bell crystal. So I think it's like bell crystal bell or something. Yeah, here's me actually taking some of them off to do it because I wanted it between the bells and not separate from them somehow. It doesn't matter. It was just a little me thing. Okay, so I thought on it some more and decided what I wanted to bring in. I think, oh, yeah, this may be the last day. So this is day 13 of this. And I woke up deciding to pull in maybe some watch pieces and some kind of butterfly thing. I had remembered these. Y'all, I picked it up at a yard sale. They are actual butterfly wings that, and you can see by the packaging that those are probably from the late 70s, early 80s. Um, yeah, just that packaging and that text and all that. But it's 4 or 5 actual butterfly wing sets that I have had in my stash for far too long because they are precious. Um, and I'm trying to get to them. There's staples, there's separate bags, yeah. So I'm going to go through it and look at these. And there is a white butterfly in here that I thought would stand out really beautifully on that darker background. So I'm trying to get it first off, this is so old. Secondly, butterfly wings are delicate, so it kind of falls to pieces on me. Yeah, and I'm trying my best not to damage it any further. Trying to decide, yeah, and see, that would have been really pretty, but I felt like it got lost next to that white linen. So yeah, seeing things are breaking, things are falling apart. I'm getting mad at myself. I'll end up pulling some tweezers in here in a minute. Oh, and these came with like these paper bodies, like the actual bodies of the butterfly on in there. It's almost like these fake papery ones with, I think, like wire or plastic antenna. I'm not going to include that in here. Yeah, I like the more natural aspect of them. All right, so I am trying to piece this together just to see how it looks, if I can figure out how it's supposed to be. Yeah, here's me like, what did I do here? How did I break this? But I will glue it all back together using some fluid medium here in just a minute once I go, oh, okay, that's how it goes. Yeah, this was the last day because I think, yeah, I'll be finishing this up here in just a little bit. I'm sorry this video is so long. Like I said, I tried to edit out some of the futzing here towards the end of this. It's a little more splicey because I was getting a little more ruthless as I edited this video a bit more and more, trying to get the time down on it. So yeah, here I pulled in. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to use some tweezers to finish this. So I'm using fluid matte medium and a paintbrush. I'll spread that onto my surface just like I did with the matte gel for the I was feeling a little bad because I was really excited about that fabric I had done with the skeleton leaves, and they're still there in the background. I know in the background they're there. I think they're pretty awesome. And more than anything, I'm really glad I experimented with sewing them together. It was one of those things that I was like, I wonder if I could sew together and make a fabric out of skeleton leaves. Well, I did. I need to go back to my sewing machine because I put the stitch length really close together to stitch that, and it's far too close together now. I need to lengthen it. So I pieced that butterfly into that fluid medium as best I could, and I'm going to then coat it as gently as I can so that I don't pull anything else apart on it. And my big fear was that I was going to change the color of it a little bit. I don't even know if you'll see it in one of my upcoming projects that I used. I also used a butterfly and it became discolored when I tried to seal it. So it's all a little bit of experimentation with these precious things, and unfortunately I know and some of them are going to get ruined because I'm experimenting. All right, so I have that the watch crystal cover that would have been on a watch, and it's got a hole in the side where like the winder would be. So I have inserted a head pin so that the head part is inside the watch and the pin part is hanging out the bottom, and I'm making a simple loop out the bottom so that something can connect to it. And that does a couple different things for me. It gives me an opportunity to add something else to it, but it also seals up that hole to an extent. Not completely. I mean, I could glue it or whatever, but it sealed it up. So I went through several little bowls and containers and things like that, looking for something to hang from that loop I've got at the bottom of the watch case. And I found a little heart charm in I can't tell if that's my small charms box or if that's my tiny charms box. But anyway, this is just a small silver charm. And it's a heart. Yeah. Small silver heart charm. Now, I decided to add, all of these pages have a sentiment on them of some sort. So this one, I went to my sewing machine. I've got these clear-ish labels that are for envelopes. And I typed on it, keep your eyes out for magic, which y'all, yeah. If you've seen the pictures on Instagram of this, you know that doesn't stay that way. But for some reason, that's what I typed up. I will admit that the idea of typing onto this clear label came from, I saw Tiffany Goff-Smith do something where she had typed onto tracing paper and then put that onto something in one of her journals. And I was like, ooh, I wonder if I could use those clear labels I have. And so I have to give credit where credit's due. So I cut down that label so it would fit on the watch face. That's not a watch face. Watch case? Watch crystal, watch cover. I don't know what you want to call it. The glass part. So from there, I wanted to make it more like a little shaker. So I've got a piece of acetate here that I am trying to figure out how I want to cut it down to the size of that. So I pulled out a ultra fine Sharpie marker here, and I'm trying to trace it, and I'm like, that's not going to work. And then I remembered I have these stencils that have these circles on it, and all I have to do is figure out what size circle that watch face is and then use that stencil on the acetate. So I'd put a mark. Yeah, I'm cleaning it off with a little bit of alcohol because Sharpie will clean up with alcohol, at least especially on something shiny like that or metal or things like that. And so I'm tracing that stencil, and then I will cut it out to make a backer for this watch case. And I'm going around the outside of that traced line because I want to make sure there's enough surface to adhere that. I don't want to go to the inside because then it would just fall inside that. So that line will be visible, but really it's the line that's going to be hidden behind the actual metal. So not super concerned about it. Now to fill up the watch case, like I said, I want it to be a shaker. I have this German glass glitter, and it's from the Susan Lennart Resner. Is that right? Anyway, it's from the Iced Enamels line, from the Industrial Chic, and yeah, I will try to find that if it's still available. It's not something that's you can get in stores anymore, I don't think, but some places online still have it. So yeah. I'm going to stick the acetate to the watch case using glossy accents. So I'm putting that onto the watch face case thing. I don't know what to call it. And then I put the acetate just on top of that. And I'm going to give that a little bit of time to dry. And then once it is dry, I will come back to put it in the little board book. So once I'm sure that is secure and everything is looking nice, I'll use E6000 to stick it down. Now, a couple things. One, this is where it gets super chunky. I am putting that very close to the center of this book, and of course not over the center, but it's going to make this page really impossible to close because it is so close to that center, but I'm living with it. Also, when I go to glue this with my E6000, I am going to make sure the little arms are still on this watch piece. So I'm for sure putting the glue on that. And I will also put it on the acetate too, but I wanted to make sure I had those little arms because that acetate can come off, no problem, but those little arms are not coming off. So I want to make sure I am actually gluing the watch itself to the book, not just the acetate, basically. So yeah, so I'm gonna put that in there. And here in a second, it hits me that the phrase that I had used, keep your eyes out for magic, was kind of silly. And instead, I'm using a watch face. So watch out for magic makes much more sense. And I don't know why that didn't hit me before. It was one of those things I was looking at it, and I think I may have even gone to take photos and was like, what are you doing, Hope? It's a watch. Use the word watch. So yeah, so I changed that, and I will trim down that sticker and then put it on my watch face. And that is it for this spread in this little board book. I hope you like this. If you did, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, make sure you hit the bell icon so that you can get notified. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. I will be back with more later. Bye.